about it. You're saying that they had what?
Donnie is floundering, flailing, and acting like one would expect for a person with a disintegrating mental state. But this isn't that. Trump is beating the drum at Fed Chair Jerome Powell because, well, there's two reasons. The first is Senior Man-Titty simply isn't bright enough to understand the world of macroeconomics.
Nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
And the second is he's a malignant sociopath who cares about no one else. And that's a dangerous part of this equation. Now, economics is about a drabbest subject one can imagine getting all fired up about, except that Trump is a con man whose grift is simple. How much money can he suck up while doing the job he loathes? And there's two things there. The first is, were it not for this job, Trump would be in prison. There's really no debate there. But secondly, as batshit crazy as he is, he has a lifetime of conning people and governments. So Trump will tell the world that Jerome Powell is wrong about not lowering interest rates, even though Trump has been told by everyone who knows these things that now is not the time. But he doesn't care.
I don't care about you. I just want your vote. I don't care.
This all happened yesterday when the Fed announced that they're keeping interest rates steady and indicated they're more concerned about rising inflation than slowing growth. But Trump doesn't give a shit about inflation. He wants growth, regardless if it hurts average Americans. And then Man-Titties dashed off a tweet attacking Powell for refusing his demand to dramatically cut rates. I mean, come on. Powell is a smart economist with a lifetime studying markets and governments, and he's truly responsible for stemming the post-pandemic inflationary horse race. And Trump, he can't take a dump without pulling a muscle. He tweeted this.
Too late, Jerome Powell. It's costing our country hundreds of billions of dollars. He's truly one of the dumbest and most destructive people in government, and the Fed board is complicit. We should be 2.5 points lower and save billions on all of Biden's short-term debt. We have low inflation. Too late's an American disgrace.
But this isn't new. Back in April, Trump bloviated,
Jerome Powell of the Fed is always too late and wrong. Oil prices are down, groceries, even eggs are down, and the USA is getting rich on tariffs. Powell's termination cannot come fast enough.
But of course Trump takes it to the next level, calling Powell names and hurling insults.
We're doing well and as a country, if the Fed would ever lower rates, would buy debt for a lot less. It's a shame. This guy, do you ever have a guy that's not a smart person and you're dealing with him and you have to deal? He's not a smart guy. He's worried about inflation. I said, that's right. If there's inflation in 6 months or 9 months, you lower the rates or you raise the rates. You can do whatever you want, Brian, right? So let's say there's rampant inflation, which there's none. You know what there is? There's success. I got a call from Congress last night. Sir, there's a problem. I said, what is it? Money is pouring in. We don't know how to account for it. I said, check the tariffs. $88 billion came in from tariffs. No inflation. And it's going to get even more so. I know what I'm doing. So we have a stupid person, frankly, at the Fed. He probably won't cut today. Europe had 10 cuts, and we had none. And I guess he's a political guy. I don't know. He's a political guy who's not a smart person, but he's costing the country a fortune. So what I'm going to do is, he gets out in about 9 months. He gets fortunately terminated, but he's done a poor job. So we have no inflation. We have only success.
Couple things here. The current rate of inflation is 2.97. A good inflation rate is generally considered to be around 2% a year. That's 30% higher than it should be. 30%. This is a rate that central banks and the Fed believe promote a healthy and stable economy. And eggs, by the way, are up 41% from last year. And Trump's continued bullshit about the tariffs.
Tariffs are like whiskey. A little whiskey under the right circumstances can be refreshing. Too much whiskey under the wrong circumstances, and you end up drunk as a goat.
Countries don't give the U.S. money. You, by paying increased prices, account for the extra money coming in. You're being taxed.
Who pays the tariffs?
The Chinese government pays the tariff.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
I want to say, I'm an importer and an exporter for 20 years.
Okay.
When a product comes into the U.S., there's something called a tariff sheet.
Okay.
I, as the buyer of that product, follow U.S. law and pay the tariff. I'm an American citizen, I'm an American taxpayer. I pay that tariff to the U.S. government, and that increase in the cost of the product, I then sell to you for a higher price because I've got to cover that tariff.
Then what about our tariffs are higher when they go overseas as opposed to theirs coming here?
So tariffs are never a zero-sum game. Tariffs are a tool. So, for example, you might say, you want to sell us your beans, right?
Yeah.
We are going to give you a low tariff if you buy our corn. But the cost of the tariff is ultimately always borne by the consumer.
Don't you think at the end of the day there may be more competition within the market of the U.S. government?
You're confusing the question. This is not a question of competition. The point we're discussing is who bears the cost of the tariff.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you if it's good policy for the U.S. government to tax beans and for the Chinese government to tariff corn. But what I can absolutely assure you is that a product that comes into the U.S. is paid for by a U.S. company, and the increased cost of that is borne by all of us.
All right, here's the simple version. Banks lend money, and that can stimulate growth as businesses that borrow the money create more jobs, and of course that tightens the labor market, and that means wages go up and people spend more, so there are fewer products, so prices rise. That's inflation. Banks have to keep a certain percentage of money on hand, so they borrow money from other banks at the rate the Fed assigns. So if the Fed is worried about inflation, they raise the rates to slow borrowing, or as in this case, keep them at the same rate. Powell knows this, but Trump wants the economy to grow because these businesses want growth, and they're offering side deals so Fat Donnie can get more coin. It's the grift I spoke about earlier. Everyone should worry about what's coming next.
He gets out in about 9 months. He gets fortunately terminated.
After Powell leaves, who knows who Trump will nominate? But we do know it will be a lackey who will do as Trump says, not what the country needs.
America first.
Go f yourself. None of Trump's economic principles help America, but they help him. Jared and Ivanka made billions, and Dairy Queen sold stocks conveniently when Trump was announcing tariffs and then purchased them hours before he paused them.
Tonight at 6 o'clock, as stocks tanked over tariff fears, a Georgia congresswoman scooped up some of the biggest losers.
Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene her purchases are coming to light as Democrats question whether President Trump manipulated the market. Members of Congress are required to report their financial holdings, and new data shows Representative Greene bought stock in Lululemon, Dell, Amazon, and the parent company of Restoration Hardware last week, all of which were down about 40% because of President Trump's tariff threats. Stocks then surged after President Trump announced a 90-day pause on tariffs. Just hours before that announcement, he posted on Truth Social that it was a, quote, great time to buy.
Current estimates say Trump's crypto profits while in office are in the billions. How will all this end? Well, that's coming up. But first, I just went through the Medicare enrollment, and now I understand why they call it the Medicare maze. I like to think I'm pretty smart, but it's so easy to miss things because the industry is far from transparent. Fortunately, I learned about Chapter. After a quick 30-minute call with them, my wife and I are going to save between $50,000 and $80,000 over the course of our lives. Chapter is completely independent. It's the only national Medicare advisor that compares every available plan. When you call, you're going to talk to an honest, patient, and unbiased advisor who's going to walk you through everything step by step. There's no pressure to sign up, and if you're already on the right plan, Chapter will tell you. Call Chapter today. The number's on the screen, 816-953-0071. That's 816-953-0071. Trump's deportation of Hispanics was promised as an attack on gangs. Trump promised that, but then he focused on farm, restaurant, and hotel workers, which you knew would happen.
But when they say illegal versus legal immigration, they are trying to end legal status in the United States as well. Correct, Governor Pritzker, with the end of TPS and making people undocumented by removing legal status, ending legal status, and then having the audacity to call them illegal when they were here documented, correct?
Taking students' visas away from people, taking their legal right to be in the United States away from them when they've been granted maybe years earlier to stay.
So I don't want to hear about how this is about illegal versus legal immigration. They are attacking legal status and removing legal status. The Republican majority is anti-legal immigration in the United States, and I want to make that very clear.
All of this will be a nightmare for the U.S. economy and the world. And like the hands of a clock that seem to be still, you know they're moving us to a place and time that will spell disaster for working men and women, and yes, the majority of MAGA. There's really nothing we can do, except for the obvious.
Goddamn right.
Do you have no shame?
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Tick-tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.